and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching America 360 on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. Top Trump administration officials are meeting Ukrainian negotiators in Florida today, pushing to broker an end to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. This is likely to set the stage for key talks planned with Russia President Putin. Donald Trump has declared Venezuelan airspace entirely closed to all airlines pilots, further escalating the feud between US and Venezuela. The move follows new US measures against alleged Venezuelan drug trafficking networks. US Navy vehicles patrol southern Puerto Rico as President Trump declared Venezuelan airspace closed in its entirety. Venezuela condemned the move as a colonialist threat, while US officials said no operations were underway to enforce the closure. House and Senate committees launch inquiries into reported second strike on alleged drug boat in the Caribbean last September. After Trump's announcement of closure of airspace against Venezuela, the government has condemned US as a colonial threat and has said that US is seeking to undermine the sovereignty of the country. 4 people died and 10 others were injured when gunfire erupted at a child's birthday party in Stockton, California. Police said the incident may have been targeted and the investigation is underway. Peru to declare state of emergency to block Chile border crossings. The announcements come as undocumented people free laboring Chile in anticipation on an immigration crackdown. Activists in New York City protested near a GSA lot to stop ICE from departing for an immigration raid. President Trump has increased officer deployments nationwide, though most of those detained have no criminal convictions. Viewers, US officials are meeting with Ukrainian negotiators in Florida this weekend to push forward a proposed peace framework aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, who is the U.S. President Trump's son-in-law, are holding talks with the Ukrainian delegation, which includes key military and government figures. This comes amid a turbulent week for Ukraine, with Ukrainian President Zelensky announcing the resignation of his chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, following a corruption scandal. The discussions will focus on revising Trump's proposed 28-point peace plan, which is not cut down to 22 points. Trump's peace plan had faced criticism for being overly favorable to Russia. Negotiations are set to continue with talks in Moscow expected later this week. Raymond Vickery, who is an international relations expert, now joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mr. Vickery, for joining us here at NewsX World. It's good to see you. Do you think the talks that are likely now, will the talks help Zelensky achieve the dignified end to the war that he's seeking?
Well, thanks very much for having me. Peace, like war, has to be waged and you have to have a strategy and partners. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any strategy, and certainly partners, other great democracies like India, Western Europe are not involved. It's taken a very transactional turn here. Nevertheless, one hopes that at least some sort of ceasefire could be arranged. I think the key point that you made is whether or not there will be any ceasefire with dignity. Russia had a full-scale invasion in 2022 of Ukraine, obviously designed to erase its sovereignty and rebuild a Russian empire. You have pointed out that the chief of staff to President Zelensky has stepped down. And my concern, or a concern, is that with a weakened position of Ukraine, that negotiators in Florida will try to beat Ukraine into an unjust peace, which will not last. It was shown with the leaked transcript of the phone call between the Russians and the American negotiators for a 28-point peace plan, that the 28-point plan was largely drafted by Moscow. It's been slimmed down to 22. Some of the more egregious points, such as complete decimation of the defense establishment of Ukraine, have been softened. The complete ceding of territory is no longer there. So one hopes, but if you look at the last 24 hours in the bombardment by Russia of Ukraine, which was stronger than ever, the prospects are not good at this point.
All right, and the modified version of the US plan that was given by the E3, so-called E3 powers, UK, France, and Germany, that favored the Ukrainian side in terms of, increasing the capping of Ukraine's military to 80,000 from 60,000, some changes to those tune. Do you think those will be discussed and accepted?
It's 800,000 from 600,000. I think that Russia will not just accept the 22-point plan as modified. They want territory. They want to come out saying that they have won the war, and they want to come out with a Ukraine which is basically defenseless. I have every doubt that they will accept this. Nevertheless, one hopes, as Winston Churchill once said, jaw is better than war, and at least the killing might be stopped. But there is a long road ahead. And as I say, it behooves all the great democracies of the world, India, Western Europe, Japan, to unite in favor of a just and lasting peace.
Well, sure. Thank you for your opinion, Mr. Vikri, and speaking to us. Do stay on. Viewers, let's also tell you that US President Donald Trump has announced that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela should be considered completely closed. The announcement that came yesterday caused confusion in Caracas and also among the US officials, who said that they were not aware of any ongoing military operations that would have prompted such a definite closure. This declaration by the US president comes amid an escalating campaign against Venezuelan drug trafficking network, which his administration blames for American deaths from consumption of illegal drugs. Trump has also warned of impending land operations to target suspected traffickers. Meanwhile, Venezuela has condemned the action, calling it a hostile and illegal move which also violates international law. Iran, which is an ally of Venezuela, has also denounced Trump's move as a threat to global aviation safety. Experts say that imposing a no-fly zone over Venezuela would require significant planning, resources, and military capabilities. Moreover, it can also lead to widespread security implications. Authorities in Venezuela have responded by increasing surveillance and patrols, particularly in the northeastern state of Sucre, where US boat strikes have previously occurred. GPS signals have also reportedly been disrupted across the country in recent weeks amid the US buildup. All right, and I'm now joined by Shruti Dasgupta, who's an international affairs expert. Joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, Shruti, for joining us here at NewsX World. What's your opinion of the developments that are taking between US and Venezuela now? a larger question that we are asking here at NewsX World is if US is really going to take over Venezuela or invade it.
Well, technically speaking, Trump cannot declare any other sovereign nation's airspace closed because he's not their president or even elected member. So this is a very colonial mindset which has been called out by Maduro in exactly same verse. It's a very colonial mindset that you can declare somebody else's airspace as unsafe or closed for business. So that is one particular aspect. The operations that are happening there, they've already declared it out there in your face. They've called it Operation Southern Spear. It falls under the 2001 AU MF, Authorized Use of Military Force, which came after 9/11, which is what they're using to justify the actions of the military or the Navy in this particular stance. I do believe the general of the Southcom was not very happy with it, and he did not want to do it. So there was a separate set of people assigned to help this move forth. Within Trinidad and Tobago, they have established. They had in November they had an exercise, U.S. naval exercise, and as of 28th of November, there are conversations that are saying that they have installed radars there by the U.S. Navy. So they are very, very closely monitoring the waters around Venezuela. They have had 21 strikes in this Caribbean Sea, in the Eastern Pacific side, and they have kind of killed, by their own admission, 80 people. Now, mind you, we do not have any proof of what those people were carrying, whether those boats were actually trafficking drugs or warlords. They've not done the same thing on the other side when they're doing the operations on the western coast. There they have arrested people and shown you that these are drug lords and this is exactly what they're trafficking. But on this side, it's just sinking the boats without any proof. Now they're operating in a wonderful gray zone where these boats are without flags. So because they are without flags, they're stateless, and then hence they become open game for anybody who wants to shoot them down, because if you fly a flag, then you are part of that particular sovereign nation. US is claiming this is all a drug cartel that is working against them, but the UN report on drug itself says that Venezuela is not part of USA's drug problem. It's a very, very minor part of the entire world's drug operation. Maduro himself has cracked down on drug in Venezuela itself. While we do have a lot of problems with Maduro as a leader, we question his elections, we question his policies, but we should not be able to declare another nation's airspace closed for business and having those airlines fearful for their life of their pilots, life of their clients, their infrastructure under question. Because they fear, so they have shut it down, which has led to the ire of the Maduro regime. So this is a large gray zone that Trump is operating in, and even the Congress is unhappy because it will sometime start looking like a declaration of war for which Congress needs to pass a war declaration.
But given the increased military in the Caribbean that Trump's is one of the Trump's strategies, he's also warning imminent land attacks. Do you think Venezuela is prepared for a war if that happens?
They're going to try their very best. They're going to posture and flex. Most of it is going to be requesting the international forums and powers to step in, because Venezuela as a nation is very, very small compared to the US military might. If push comes to shove, they can probably take over the nation. But then again, that would be a very colonial act, taking another nation and its resources by sheer might of their military. So this is where UN needs to step in. This is when they need to call out the Turkey and say, please don't do this. This is violation of all normal human rights as well as international functions. The Chicago 1944 Convention itself says that you cannot declare somebody else's airspace as illegal. You cannot act without showing proof of guilt of transporting drugs. Without proof, this is just one man's ego fighting for their own survival and posturing.
All right, Shruti, thank you for speaking to us here. But do stay on, viewers. Let's also tell you that Hondurans are voting today in a closely contested presidential election under a cloud of heated fraud accusations in one of Latin America's poorest countries. The race is essentially a toss-up, with polls showing a near tie among top three contenders: former Defense Minister Rixi Moncada of the ruling leftist Libre Party, former Tegucigalpa Mayor Nasri Afsura of the Conservative National Party, and television host Salvador Nasrallah of the centrist Liberal Party. Since 2021, Honduras has been led by President Xiomara Castro, who has forged closed ties with Cuba and Venezuela, a stance that has strained relations with the United States and its President Donald Trump. In fact, President Trump has endorsed Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted of drug trafficking charges in a U.S. court last year. Meanwhile, the ruling party candidate this year has accused Trump of interfering in the election by endorsing her right-wing opponent. Let's listen in to what Rixi Moncada, the ruling party presidential candidate, had to say.
País. No hay ninguna duda que hay dos acciones concretas a 3 días de las elecciones que son totalmente injerencistas. Tenemos una buena relación con Estados Unidos, particularmente en este gobierno en materia comercial, en materia de defensa. Miles de migrantes dan su fuerza de trabajo a familias norteamericanas en Estados Unidos. Esas relaciones son reales, no se pueden. Nosotros defendemos principios universales de autodeterminación de los pueblos, de independencia, de respeto a la soberanía, al orden democrático, al poder del.
All right, I would now request Raymond Vickery to join us again on this conversation here. Mr. Vickery, thank you for staying on with us. Now, it's a three-way contest, but largely dominated by threats from Trump. He has threatened to cut off aid if his preferred candidate loses. What impact is that going to have?
Well, thanks for letting me comment on this. It seems to me that this election shows that democracy is alive, if not completely well, in Honduras. The problem with the Trump approach is one of the 19th century throwback to empires or spheres of influence. He, like many presidents from more than 100 years ago, has taken the approach that the United States is entitled to have influence throughout Latin America, and it's part of our sphere of influence. This is the same approach which Putin is taking in regard to Europe, and Xi is taking in regard to Asia. It went out at the end of World War II with the United Nations and a United Nations charter, which plainly sets forth the non-aggression, the respect for sovereignty of other nations. The way forward in regard to the Trump approach leads to hostility, leads to war, not just in terms of Latin America with Venezuela and indeed any country that President Trump has a disagreement with, but it leads to hostilities and war throughout the world. And what is needed is to return to a path of multilateralism, to rule of law, and to principles, as opposed to might is right, and it's my way or the highway. One hopes that you will have an outcome in Honduras which will allow democracy to go forward, and that as Trump passes from the scene and his power is cut down, We do have midterm elections coming up next year, and it's likely he's going to lose the House of Representatives, that we will return to the path which the United States has certainly championed along with India and other great democracies since World War II.
Well, sure. Thank you, Mr. Vikri, for joining us here at NewsX World and speaking to us. With that, viewers, we now shift our focus. And this is news now from California, where a mass shooting at a family gathering inside a banquet hall in Stockton left at least 4 people dead and 10 others injured. According to Heather Brent, the spokesperson for the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office, the victims included both children and adults, and early indications suggest this may have been a targeted attack. Local officials say that the suspected shooter has not been caught and has pleaded the public for help to catch the shooter. The violence adds Stockton to a growing list of American communities whose everyday spaces like schools, shopping centers, bars, and office buildings have experienced gun violence. And I want to welcome back Shruti Dasgupta, International Affairs experts from New Delhi, into the conversation here. Shruti, gun violence is recurrent in United States of America. In fact, it's spared not even the president of the largest democracy, right? How do you think this is going to stop? What must the US do, and what's really triggering this kind of attacks?
Well, most people would say it's because of gun laws, but California itself has the toughest of gun laws in USA. So if there are mass shootings like this happening, and as the cops taking a look into this incident at California, saying it's targeted shooting, then it's not just mere gun laws. Then there is a larger problem at hand. One would be that one would question why the ethnicity of the shooter has not been declared, why the ethnicity of the people at the birthday party not being declared. Everything is under tight wraps. They are asking for help from public, but they are unable to tell you what to look for. They're just saying, if you have any information, just come into us. And they've even taken out a plea, I believe, from the interviews that I was seeing, that they've pled with the shooter that if you've done it, you can come forth, to us. Call us in, surrender. This is a call for surrender for the shooter. So it shows that probably law and order is a larger problem, which has led to the situation where USA is suffering gun incidents. Although gun incidents have been very common in USA, people have shorter tempers. They have, I believe, if I take this conversation a little ahead, with the advent of internet and social media, people get triggered very, very easily. So it might be a psychological breakdown of people who have the right to own guns. And that has led to the unfortunate situation of where children celebrating a birthday party are not safe.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Shruti, for joining us for now and speaking to us here at NewsX World. And moving on, viewers, Peruvian President Jose Herri says that Peru is set to declare a state of emergency along its border with Chile, aiming to control the influx of migrants attempting to enter the country. The president said the measure is intended to generate tranquility before the risk of migrants entering without authorization. Peruvian authorities report that at least 100 foreigners, mostly Venezuelans, are currently waiting at the border to cross. Police General Arturo Valverde confirmed that surveillance has been increased in anticipation of the emergency declaration, with officers closely monitoring the area to prevent unauthorized crossings. The move comes after Chilean presidential frontrunner Jose Antonio Cast vowed to expel undocumented migrants. Cast stated that those who do not leave voluntarily will face detention and deportation, warning they will leave with what you have on. Peru's state of emergency aims to manage migration flows, strengthen border security, and prevent tension between authorities and incoming migrants in the coming weeks. The political rhetoric surrounding immigration is intensifying in both the countries as the situation at the border remains tense. That's a wrap on America 360, but do keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from across the world.
What we can do